I have too many windows and I'm going to get lost. Okay, it's 5:35. So, everybody to Solidarity Lowell's general May meeting. Still under somewhat precarious, but here we are, and welcome to all who could make it today. And I hope I can do this without too many technical glitches. Whoop, there we go. No, I can do it like this. Yes. Here's today's agenda. Just briefly, we'll see more details of that as we go along, but that's sort of our time frame, which is what it's now. And for the meetings on
Chris, your volume is breaking up.
Oh, gee. And I have everything plugged in.
That's better.
It's better. Okay, I'm going to hang my face right in front of it then. So you all know how to do the raise hand symbol, I hope, by now. If you have something to say, if you can't get it on the computer, you can also wave frantically, and hopefully, who's keeping the stack? Joe. Hopefully Joe will see you. If you need to take a break or step away, stop the video, and you stop the video when you're ready to return. And the usual step up and step back. Step up if there's something you have to say. In this case, raise your hands so Joe can see you. Step back if you've said a lot and give other people a chance to say something. And this meeting is being recorded. Going right in to reiterate the, now I got to put the window away so I can see what I'm reading. So Solidarity Lowell is a volunteer-based group of community members of, I can't read that. How do I get this thing out of my way? Okay, hide. Of Greater Lowell, working towards social justice by defending the human rights, dignity, and equality of all persons against all forms of hate and discrimination. With all in-person events on hold, we hope we can bring people together virtually and come up with ways to pursue progressive issues in this time of social distancing. We are a chapter of Progressive Massachusetts. If you're interested in learning more about Progressive Mass or joining one of the committees, please let us know after the meeting. The Solidarity Lowell Coordinating Committee is your team of fearless leaders running the meetings, organizing events, disseminating relevant news, and sharing calls to action. And usually at this time, I would ask everybody to stand up, but since we will be talking about the coordinating committee in one of the next few slides, we'll leave it for that. Any questions so far? Moving right along. Okay, we're doing our usual rounds of introductions, your name, where you're from, your pronouns, and what is the one thing you did for fun this month. Okay, I'll start off and then, where do I get the list? Oh, down here. Okay, I need the list so I can call on you. I'm going to start off and then I'm going to call in order that you appear on my list so we hopefully don't get lost. So I'm Chris Offerman. I live in downtown Lowell. My pronouns are she, her, hers. And the one thing that, well, not what I did for fun, but that brought me fun or joy is that my daughter successfully completed her first semester in grad school. She is doing, what's it called? Art therapy, and it was kind of challenging to do that remotely. She was struggling a bit to get, or I guess the whole school was struggling how to get this done, but they completed the semester successfully. I haven't heard the grades yet, but she thinks she might have pulled straight A's again, which would please me no end because then I can brag again. So that was my joy of last week. Amy would be next.
Hi, Amy, she, her, hers, and I live in the Acre, and this is Pigpen. I'm gonna get him off my lap now. One thing I did for fun, I went to a virtual concert last night, and that was a lot of fun.
Nice. Lisa?
My name is Lisa Arnold. I am from downtown Lowell, she, her, hers, and I went on a 25-mile bike ride today. It was great.
Ooh, nice. Paul?
Paul Gurdett from Merrimack Valley Project, Highland section of Lowell, he, him, his. Fun thing this week, I did a backyard driveway celebration for an activist friend in Lawrence, Arthur Bryan, who's 90 years old.
Ooh,
We had a great time and brought balloons and had cupcakes.
all right. Well, this list keeps changing on me. So, Joyce, you just popped up next in this list, even though you just joined. But if you could briefly introduce yourself, Joyce Hackett.
Yeah, I'm Joyce Hackett. I'm the Democratic Town Chair of New Marlboro, and I founded Lift Every Vote, which works on, teaching people how to do the most effective voting activism. And I'm going to be talking a little later in the session, so that's why I'm here.
Welcome, Joyce. Aaron, you are next in my list.
Hi, I had to put it in the chat.
Oh, okay. You'll be in the chat. People click on the chat if you want to know who Aaron is.
Sorry about that.
No problem. Joe,
Yes, hello. Sorry I'm late.
there you are. Introduce yourself, please.
Oh, okay. Everybody, my name is Joseph Boyle. I'm a member of the Solidarity Lowell Coordinating Committee. I live in the Highlands. My pronouns are he, him. Happy to see you all here.
Okay. Aurora,
Okay. Hi, everybody. My name's Aurora. I live downtown. Here representing Lowell Votes, so you'll hear more from me later. And I've been playing a lot of Animal Crossing. And yesterday we had a really fun day where we invited all of our friends over to Animal Crossing, and it was a nice virtual social event.
cool. Caroline,
Okay. Caroline Snow, and I am also on the coordinating committee, and I am from, I always forget, Centreville. And pronouns are she and her. And one thing that I did this month, which wasn't necessarily fun, but productive, was I learned how to work virtually. So that was actually, it was fun in a weird way to learn a new schedule and to be like, oh, I can really work from home because that's probably going to be my future. So.
okay. Chris Hayes,
Hi, I'm Chris Hayes. I live downtown. I go by he, him, and I've been walking around different neighborhoods in Lowell that I haven't normally gone to this month.
okay. D,
Hi, Dee Halzak. I live in the Acre. She, her, hers. Last night I attended a virtual conference by Nefesh Mountain, which I discovered during the pandemic. So.
okay. This king thing keeps slipping on me, but I think I'm keeping track. Glenn,
Hi, I'm Glenn Cody. He, him, his. I've been writing a lot in my journal, which is really my diary, but I call it a journal because it sounds manlier.
okay. John Grossman.
I'm John Grossman, he, him. I live in Pawtuckaville and Lowell. And last night I watched a guy sadly take down a tree that had to be taken down in my yard, but the skill and ability he had in doing it amazing.
Okay. Karen? Karen Cirillo?
And can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I'm former Lowell City Councilor Karen Cirillo, and I am she, her, hers, and I live in Centerville, and I went for my first bike ride today, and it felt so good.
Excellent. Linda?
Hi, Chris. Hi, group. My name is Linda Cantor. I'm from downtown. My pronouns are she, her. And the one thing I did that was fun this month, was I listened to Stephen Sondheim, and I had a nice conversation with Karen Cirillo.
All right. And Luz, you're next. Luz, you with us?
Okay, I'm Luz Vasudeva, and I live in Kingsborough, and I work for the Lowell Public Schools. And I am she, hers, and then I'm alive.
All right. Marissa.
Hi, everybody. I'm Marissa DuPont. I'm from Pawtucketville in Lowell. My pronouns are she, her, hers. And for fun, I have been managing the campaign for Lisa Arnold, who is running for state rep in 17th Middlesex.
All right. Maura? Hello, Maura.
I'm using the space key. Does that work?
Yes.
Okay. Maura Snow. I live in Chelmsford. She, her, hers. One fun thing. I went for a canoe ride today, and Caroline Snow invited me to speak about ranked choice voting.
Yes. That'll come in a bit. All right. Thank you. Pat? Oh, Pat.
Okay. Hi, I'm Pat. I live in Pawtucketville, and I'm a she, her. And fun thing I did was actually yesterday I joined a quarantine, a TEAM at the end, with two of my really great friends. And they actually came over to my house yesterday, and we had a backyard barbecue in my backyard, and it was so much fun to see them and get together, and to be able to have the first cookout of the year, and just to establish a quarantine where you trust the other people that they are going to follow all the rules for preventing spread. And I think it's a fantastic idea to do that with trusted friends and family.
All right. Ron?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
I'm Ron Peachtree. My living conditions are indeterminate at the moment because I'm going through a divorce. My pronouns are he, his, and I've been part of this since I think pretty close to the beginning. And I hope, fun things. I just took a month off because I spent from December until April 18th working 13-hour days, 6 or 7 days a week. So I've been relaxing. Now I'm getting back into it.
Scott?
Yeah, hi. I'm Scott Richards. I live in Billerica, he, him, his. I don't know if it's fun, but I've been working on building some raised bed gardens right now, so that'll be nice. Yeah. Oh, and I'm part of the coordinating committee.
Okay. Steve?
Right. Steve Malagotti, 350 Lowell. I live in downtown Lowell. He, him. I don't really do fun, but you know what I do to stave off misery and depression is walk around town taking photographs. So the weather's been really nice and it's been very enjoyable.
Thank you. Susie?
Hi, my name is Susie Chun, Lowell resident, and she, her. And one thing that I did so far this month, actually not much, because as you may know, school's not in session. So I do like remote learning, kinda, but that's basically it. Zooming with the students. Thank you.
Okay, Tooch? Tooch, you're on mute.
Tooch?
I know he's here, but maybe he stepped away. We'll move on to Win. Win, are you there? I guess not. Oh, there you are.
Hi, I'm Wynn Flint. I live on the top of Centerville on Christian Hill.
My pronouns are she, her, and I've been quilting for fun.
Excellent. Okay, Tooch, one more time. If you can hear me, can you unmute yourself?
Can you hear me, Chris?
Yes, now I can hear you. Brief introduction, even though most of us know you, but since we're all doing it.
Yeah. Tooch Van live in South Lowell. Him and he, what fun thing, I just got back walking at the beach. It was fun.
Okay. Did I forget anybody? If so, speak up, please. Okay. Nobody, I hope. Then I will hope that I can, yes, get to the next screen where we celebrate our victories and
You're breaking up again.
it says something about low resources. I have to close something, and that'll cause all kinds of interesting problems here.
That's better. You're clear now.
Okay. Yeah, my computer is giving me some kind of warning here, but I can't close anything else, so sorry, computer. So re-elected coordinating committee members Joe Boyle, Dee Halzak, Scott Richards, and myself, and members Caroline Snow and Steve Malagodi. So those 6 here, plus Amy, who wasn't up for election, she will be next year, and Lynn, who is probably off sailing, but is also a member of the coordinating committee, will be up next year. Is there anybody else who has victories they would like to share? Okay, moving on. We're not doing this one now, even though this is coming up now. Too, I want to give you an opportunity now. Do you have your own slides that you wanted to present? Then I will go out of the screen share and you can share. Okay.
I'm not sure that I know how to do this.
Okay.
The share screens.
I can probably, let me see, stop share with this one. And now I can try and pull up your screen.
That would be great.
Yeah, I had it here somewhere. It disappeared. Beautiful. Oh, I just closed it because my computer gave me the warning that I had things open. All right. Now the question is, how can I bring it up again? Hopefully this way. My speaker is not working. Please check your connection or use a different speaker. Well, oh, this wants to install an update now. That's not good. In that case, that's not going to happen. You may have to just say what it is you wanted to say, because
Tooch, if you want to share your screen, it's in the center, down in the center on the bottom. It says share screen.
Hold on 1 second, sir. Yeah, I've tried to. Oh, share. It's learning.
It should give you some choices, and you pick the one you want to see.
Let's see. Okay. I saw the share screen. The host. Okay.
You have to have the thing open first that you want to share. So
Chris, you may have to make him a host to share.
No.
No?
Other people can share.
Okay.
I can co-host Tooch if I can find him again in this list.
I just say about a couple words, right?
Okay.
Well, thank you for opportunities. My name is Tooch Van again. I'm with the Census Bureau. Let me get into it. Despite the COVID-19, our goals are still the same. We count everyone once, only once, and in the right place. We try to count 330 million people and 140 million household units. It's a big goal, but with your help, we believe we can accomplish. Again, our team is it's easy and safe and important. Easy, you can complete online, phone, and mail. Safe, every piece of information that we collect is absolutely confidential. It's protected by the constitutions. And as you know, we use a census formula to release 675 billion a year to the state. So this money will go for roads, firemen, and all critical importance, healthcare, and those kind of things. And also, the Census Bureau determines the number of the House representative in the House of United States. So this political power is very important. So that's why we are very stressed again that's such a very important set for everybody to respond to the census. So because of COVID-19, we adjusted the self-response rate. Now we extend until October 31st, 2020. It used to be July, the end of July, now at October. And so our key message to you today is it's not too late to respond to the 2020 census. If you did it already, please encourage your friends and family to do the same. If you haven't done yet, you probably got the mail, paper form in your mail, and please do respond it. That's all I have for you, unless you have any questions, I take a...
Okay, thank you. This says my speaker isn't working. Can anybody hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
We can hear
you.
you.
Good. Then I'll disregard that notice. Thank you, Tooch. Sorry, couldn't show your slides, but that wasn't working with the updating my computer wanted to do. So
thank you for the opportunity anyway.
Definitely. It's an important topic and we should definitely hear about it. Now, where did my PowerPoint go here? Yes. Okay, we're going to skip over this. If I could. Skip over this, skip over this, skip over this. And we're going to move right along to the 17th Middlesex District State Rep race. Of the candidates that are running for that seat, only one candidate has chosen to seek endorsement by Progressive Massachusetts. And since we are part of Progressive Mass, we take that as a guideline. That one person that is seeking the endorsement is our own Lisa Arnold. We will, as members of Solidarity Lowell, vote on whether to endorse Lisa Arnold or not. We will do that by sending out a ballot probably in the next few days, questionnaire and ballot tomorrow, and then you can indicate on that what you want to do. But before you have to make that decision, of course, we would like to give Lisa a few minutes to reintroduce herself and say a few things about who she is and what she wants to do. Please take it. Have we lost Lisa? No.
Yep, I'm here.
Okay, go right ahead.
Okay, great. My name is Lisa Arnold, and I have been a member of Solidarity Lowell since the beginning and a part of the coordinating committee until I decided to run for state rep of the 17th Middlesex District. 2 years ago, we brought in incorruptibles and trained on how we could take back our government so that we could really, as an organization and as citizens, make a difference about the issues that are most important to us. And a year ago, we actually did a training. At the time I was facilitating the training, I had no intention of running for office. And yet a year later, things have changed, and my life situation changed to the point where it seemed like the right thing to do. And so I am ready to be the representative for all of the coalitions that we've spent the last couple of years building, and help bring all of our voices to the State House. Some of the things that are important to me personally are mental health access, wanting to make sure that people have the access that they need when they need it, and that they're not shut out. And right now, I think that's really important, because there's a lot of people who are really dealing with mental health crises at an alarming rate because of all of the isolation that people are going through, and just all of the different issues that unfortunately a lot of different groups are affected by. And the others, you know, we've worked with 350 Mass very closely. I am 100% behind the Massachusetts Green New Deal. And also the other is transparency in office. We have not a lot of transparency right now. We have no way of knowing what the how our representatives vote. Massachusetts is one of the most closed off state house or legislatures there is. It's hard to get an incumbent voted out. It's also hard to know how our representatives vote. And so I am all for changing the rules for how we do roll call and making it much more transparent, so we are much more informed about how our representatives are voting, so we can hold them accountable. Any questions?
I'm not seeing any. Oh, yes, John.
Lisa, one of the difficulties of in the state legislature is it has a very somewhat rigid leadership structure. And I know it's difficult for new representatives who come in, and there's sort of a trade-off between your chances of getting your priorities addressed by the leadership, and sometimes that conflicts with the legislator's principles. Can you speak a little bit about how you would address the top-down leadership situation in the State House, should you get there, and how you would deal with that difficult conflict?
Great question. I do know that there's always trade-offs. Coming from my business background, I have worked with teams to help figure out how to make major change in organizations, and one of my specialties is figuring out how to get people to the same table, so that by the time we are ready to make a decision, they feel like they're the ones that had the idea in the first place. So that's something that I specialize in, and I hope to use those skills that I've honed over the last 25 years to be able to do that. And I think another thing that will be important is the more progressive state representatives that we can vote into the State House, the more power we will have. So I'm hopeful that there's a lot of other races where there are progressives running, and I'm hoping that if we can get a mass of progressive representatives, we'll be able to create change from within.
Thank you.
Okay, any other hands up?
Amy has a question. It's in the chat.
Chris can't read the chat.
I will read the chat as soon as I find it.
I can read it. I can read the chat. It's fine.
Okay, or Lisa can just read it.
I can read it. Okay, the question is, how do I feel about the Green New Deal? So the Massachusetts Green New Deal is, I have signed the pledge from the Sunrise Coalition, and it has a lot of really great elements to it, many of which I think will help not just our environment, but also with environmental justice. One of the things that I think sticks out for me is the fact that we have a 7% cap on solar generation. And we have already reached that cap. And if we could lift that cap, I think that it would do two things. One, it would get us reaching the sorry, I'm hearing. Can everybody hear me? Okay, is the sound going through?
Yes.
Yes. Yeah, you're fine.
Okay, good. I was hearing chats and I was afraid somebody was saying it wasn't working. So lifting the 7% cap would help us to reach the goal of clean energy, 100% renewable energy by 2050 or sooner, which I think if we don't lift the cap, we're going to have trouble getting to that. And the other thing that it will do is it will create more jobs. And right now, given the situation in our economy, we need to free up those jobs. So we need to lift that cap so that we can have more jobs.
Okay, Glenn, did you just raise your hand? Glenn?
I did a clap emoji when I heard she signed the Sunrise endorsement.
Okay, excellent. All right, any other questions for Lisa? I have too many windows I'm managing here, but we'll see. All right, so like I said before, all the voting members, which is any member that has attended 3 or more meetings in the last 12 months, will receive a questionnaire and a ballot. The questionnaire is the one, I believe, Amy, you had that questionnaire. That was for Progressive Mass. That gives you much more detail about Lisa, how she answered those questions. And then, of course, there will be a ballot where you can vote either yes, endorse, or no, endorse not. We would very much encourage you to pay attention to that, look at your email for that, even if it's hidden in spam, and send it back as soon as you can so we don't have to send out more reminders. And with that, we are ahead of time. That's amazing. Well, I don't know if our, I could get to, there we go, could I do that? And yes, our featured speaker of the day is right. I haven't seen it, but I think so maybe
breaking up again, Chris.
Making me crazy. Okay, I don't see that our featured speaker of the evening has arrived yet, but I know there's other people from his campaign here, and since we're done with the updates so far, if you would like to take it over from here, please do. Yes,
Chris, I didn't know if we're doing updates, but I just want to thank everybody who was supportive of the Merrimack Valley Project House Party that was on the 13th of May. Several came and were participating. Professor Forrent gave a nice presentation on U.S. history in terms of working people in crisis the way we are now. And I want to just thank everyone for their support. We reached our fundraising goal. And
excellent.
I appreciate it very much.
Excellent. Yes, I was going to do more updates, but towards the end, because several of the speakers had time restrictions and I wanted to be mindful of that. But since we have a few minutes, yes, there was a quick update between now and then that they would like to share.
Chris?
Yes.
I don't have an update per se about the Affordable Housing Committee, but I wanted to let everybody know there is a housing-related item on the agenda on the next City Council meeting. I'll probably be getting a City Council report out either tonight or tomorrow. And the petition is to sell a piece of city-owned land on Willie Street to a private developer who proposes to build housing. And he's proposing to build 13 units of market rate housing, which is a good thing for the city and everything, but it doesn't actually, it's all market rate housing and there's no affordability element there. And I've spoken to a couple of city councilors and it looks like they're going to take the opportunity to open up the discussion about the need for affordable housing, about the city including affordable housing standards or conditions as a condition on the sale of city-owned land and things like that. So keep your eyes peeled for that. I'm not sure there's actually I mean, we could potentially, if people wanted to, go sign up to speak to make that point when it comes to that item. But I think I'm just going to wait and see. You know, I'm going to see how the people I've spoken to handle this. And, you know, ideally, if it's coming from, you know, other city councilors, as opposed to coming as criticism of the city council, that it could be received differently. But I think that this is, is kind of a foot in the door, or could be kind of a foot in the door. So I suggest everybody watch the city council meeting this Tuesday at 6:30 on channel 99 on your cable, or if you don't have cable, you can watch it on www.ltc.org. They have City Council on demand, or watch City Council link. It's very easy to navigate to the meetings.
Okay.
I see Jonathan's hand up.
Thank you, Joe. Yet time is about up. You said 6:10. We're now 1 minute over for Senator Markey. Aaron, are you going to take it from here? I don't hear any Aaron.
I suggest we just go back to items that we skipped for now.
Well, Aaron said he was about ready. So let's try this.
Yeah, Aaron is on mute.
Well, Aaron, if you unmute yourself, then that would be good. One second, he says. Okay. 1 second. So wait 1 second. I'll go back to my 1 second. I just lost it all together. All right, never mind. I lost my meeting altogether. That's not good. Okay, I'll go back to my screen. And Aaron, pop in whenever you're ready. I'm just gonna go back to something that I skipped, namely the Immigrant Rights Subcommittee update, which is usually my thing. And of course, all local actions are still on hold. Basically what I'm doing is, and I'm sure many other people are doing that, is following MIRA for any statewide actions they might have relating to the Safe Communities Act and the Driving Families Forward Act. Information about that can always be found at coalition.org, or one can email me at chris@solidaritylowell.com. And that was that section. And 1 second.
I got a brief update if you want it.
Sure, go ahead.
350 Mass, the Climate Justice Group, 2 quick updates. I believe on Tuesday City Council meeting, there is a motion to endorse a good climate bill in the Senate that Jay Mason has worked to put on the agenda. So I'd encourage people attending to show support for that. And secondly, we have a petition that we're circulating, an electronic petition that calls on our state representatives and legislators to take strong climate action this session. They still can do that. We're trying to collect a lot of signatures across the state, but especially from the Lowell-Chelmsford area, because we have some powerful politicians in the energy space here. So I'm going to put it in the chat and urge people to sign it and circulate it among your connections. We're going to try to present it next week. So we really want to get as many signatures as we can out there. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Should be getting on now.
Excellent.
Hey, this is Ed Markey. Am I in yet? Can you see me? What do I have to do with this in here?
Yes, we can hear you, we can see you, and we welcome you to our meeting. Just to get that started off, is that, as we all know, this is Senator Ed Markey. who is running for re-election and who was the candidate endorsed by Progressive Mass. And as I said before, especially with elections, we're taking our lead from Progressive Mass. So we're very happy to welcome you, Senator, to this meeting. If you would like to take it from here, please go right ahead.
Well, first of all, thank you. Thank you so much for hosting. Thanks for coming together, and thank you for being activists, Democrats in the era of Donald Trump. I mean, oh my goodness, this is a challenge for our country, having the wrong person to make the right decision in the Oval Office every single day. It's absolutely irresponsible. Every decision which he makes about detergent, being potentially safe, to clean yourself out, oh my goodness, I'm not even going to go there, but it's not safe. Don't take anyone who's listening here. And so from my perspective, we have the man who refuses to invoke the Defense Production Act. He refuses to mass produce the personal protective equipment, the testing equipment, the equipment which we need for the contact tracing. He's in denial. I back on January 23rd called on him and his administration to give us a briefing about the coronavirus so we could get ahead of it, which he did not do. Then on January 27th, I called on him. I was the first senator to call on him in order to have a coronavirus czar named, which he also ignored. I was the first senator to call upon him to deploy the Defense Production Act so we could produce all this personal protective equipment. I told the vice president personally that we would need 3.5 billion N95 masks. He said, that's the first time I heard that. I said, it's an HHS number from 3 years ago when they did a pandemic a planning session. So all of this is just absolutely tragic in terms of the impact that it's having upon people's lives, which is why I've worked so hard to make sure that we would produce that equipment, why we would give long extended unemployment benefits, why we would include gig workers who otherwise would be left out because they wouldn't be covered in Massachusetts, why we would protect minority and women small businesses and give them the kind of funding which they're going to need in order to make it through this crisis and not allow the largest small businesses gobble up a disproportionate share of all of that funding. And it's why, I am just going to be battling Mitch McConnell on the floor of the Senate to make sure we put $1 trillion into this budget for cities and towns like Lowell. Otherwise, we're going to see massive teacher, fire, police, healthcare, food reductions at the exact same time that we need them to be increasing, not decreasing. So we're going to have a big battle as McConnell says, well, it's a blue state problem, not a red state problem. Hey, check out, Mr. Majority Leader, which states have the increases right now. They almost all look like red states. So I think as each day and week goes by, it's only going to strengthen our hand to be able to get the help which we need. But it's going to be an incredible battle. The same thing's going to be true for extending unemployment insurance past July all the way out to December, which we have to do. These families are going to be desperate if they don't have extended unemployment insurance. We're heading into a depression. We're going back to the 1930s. Accept it, Mr. President. Accept it, Mitch McConnell. Let's not be Herbert Hoover again. Let's learn the lessons of FDR and make sure that we put in the funding that's going to be needed in order to be able to protect these families. I know what the Great Depression did to my mother and father, and I don't want it to see it happen again. As you know, my father is from Lawrence. My father grew up on the first floor of a triple-decker at 88 Phillip Street in Lawrence, 5 brothers and sisters. That's where my father is from. That's where the Markeys are from, Lawrence, first floor of the triple-decker in the shadow of the mills. I know that when the Lawrence Bank went under in 1930, All of the Markey money was in that bank. No federal deposit insurance, no safeguards, gone. And I know what the impact was on those 5 Markeys on the first floor of the triple decker. And when I went up there to start this Senate campaign 6 years ago, I rang the doorbell at 88 Phillips Street to see who lives there now. And out onto the porch came a Dominican family. And the accents are different, but the aspiration's clearly the same for that family as for the Markey family. My father's son is a United States Senator. Well, that's what all of those immigrant families should be able to feel about their children as well. And I know that I'm a product of that. So I take this very personally, what's going on, very personally, what's going on, because I still live here in Walden in the same house that I grew up in. My father was a smart guy. He drove a truck for the Hood Milk Company. Very smart, hardworking guy. I know how fortunate I am to have been a commuter to college, a commuter to law school, and I'm proud to still live in the same house on the street. But it's a whole different group of immigrants now. It's Haitians, it's Brazilians, it's Chinese, the Irish, the Italian, the Jewish families. They moved out, and which is how America works. And so I can see how hardworking they are. And I take what Trump is doing very personally, because this is where I live. This is how I grew up. And so for me, I'm going to battle him every day to make sure that he protects immigrant families, make sure that he protects those who are most vulnerable, make sure he protects those who are called essential workers. But what we really learned is that they're Black, they're brown, they're immigrant. They take risks every day for all of our families. And we're going to have to stand up and fight for them to make sure that we get them the health care, the child care, the sick leave, to get them the guaranteed incomes, which they're going to need. They're taking care of our families now. We're going to have to take care of their families when this thing is over. And I'm going to continue to fight for the Green New Deal. That's what Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and I did. We said, we need a Green New Deal. We can create millions of new blue-collar jobs, saving the whole planet, saving all of creation by engaging in massive job creation and doing it, protecting frontline communities, which we put right into the Green New Deal, doing it with intersectionality, making sure that we take care of those families. Millions of jobs, wind, solar, all electric vehicles, storage, battery technologies, you name it. We just got to train a new generation and get them out there and do that work. Gun violence, back in December, I was successful in putting $25 million into $25 million into the federal budget in December. So for the first time, the CDC would study the causes of gun violence in America. We lose 35 or 40,000 people a year. And that money is in, and CDC can now begin that study. And that's going to be the beginning of making NRA stand for not relevant anymore in American politics. I'm very proud of that victory. Very few victories ever over the NRA. I had a big one just in December, in the same way I did on banning the importation of Chinese assault weapons at $80 a piece in the 1990s, which was the assault weapon of choice on the streets of America. An American-made gun cost $800. A Chinese assault weapon, $90, the price of a pair of basketball shoes. So that ban is still in place, by the way. It's kept out 15 to 20 million semi-automatic assault weapons. And I'm also going to fight to find the cure for Alzheimer's. You know, we have crazy numbers here, what's been happening in nursing homes in Massachusetts and across the country, and we're going to find that all too many of them had Alzheimer's and other chronic diseases. My mother passed away from Alzheimer's. She was a very, very smart woman. My father, from a graduate of Lawrence High School, would always say, you know, Eddie, it was an honor that your mother married me. And we should try to keep your mother in the living room. And that's where I'm sitting right now. I'm sitting here in where we kept her, in her bed. You know, we had to have bars on either side of her, and we would have people who would come in and visit for an hour a day, you know, to help us take care of her. And so I know how many families right now are really distressed because they can see what's happened in nursing homes. They can see what's happened at home with home care workers not having personal protective equipment. The person who needs the care, no personal protective equipment, no testing, you know, and we're seeing that over 60% of the people who have passed away, you know, are falling in that category. So my bill, my law, my 2014 law calls for the NIH to find the cure for Alzheimer's by the year 2025. We have 5 million of them right now. We'll have 15 million baby boomers with Alzheimer's, 15 million. The Medicare and Medicaid bill will be as big for Alzheimer's by the time all the baby boomers have retired as for the defense budget in our country. That's how big it will be. It's already half of the defense budget. So I'm going to continue to fight and win on those issues. I have a law I'm going to get passed on the Green New Deal. I'm going to have a law that ensures that we further constrict the NRA. I already have a law on Alzheimer's. I'm going to continue to ensure that it gets funded. And on other healthcare issues, on other rights of all people in America, regardless of their color, to make sure that they all get all of the protections that are guaranteed them under the 14th Amendment of the United States Constitution, equal application of the law. That's who I am. That's what I've always been. I just channel that first floor of the triple decker in Lawrence every day. I know how fortunate I am. I channeled this room here in Malden where I live and what my father. And by the way, the right arm of a milkman is the strongest arm in the world, lifting 6 milk bottles every day. So at age 80, 82, 84, 86, 88, and 90, he could do it here. I could help him, but he had to do it all day. And I channeled that. And throughout this coronavirus, I'm going to make sure these Republican, kick them in the heart, you break your toe, indifferent human beings to the suffering, the pain that we're seeing out there, that I battle them every single day. And I thank all of you for everything you're doing and battling as well. So we'd glad to stop, take some questions if you would like, but thank you all for being here tonight.
Thank you very much, Senator. Yes, if anybody has any questions, Glenn, I think I see your hand up, even though I'm not the stacker. Yes, we should all do a round of these, even though we can't hear it. Glenn, did you have a question?
Yes, Senator Markey, thank you for coming. I'd love to volunteer. I had a question about, if I'm correct, I believe you introduced legislation to ban the president from doing a nuclear first strike. Is that correct?
Oh my goodness, yeah, thank you, Glenn. And Aaron from my staff is on the call here. Aaron's right up here.
Perfect.
And
I
feel like it's like we live in a world of Hollywood squares now. You know what I mean? Where with Zoom, it's our new existence. But so Aaron is right over there. Yeah, you know, when Trump was talking about fire and fury in North Korea, that they're going to see something that no one's seen, ever seen before. No, Mr. President, you cannot start a nuclear war against a country if we have not been attacked with nuclear weapons. You cannot do that. So my legislation is no first use. You have to get the authorization of the House and Senate, Mr. President, before you can begin a nuclear war. Because this man cannot be trusted with his finger on the button. And we have to work hard every single day in order to constrain him. There would be catastrophic consequences for the world if he was ever allowed to do that. So yes, I've introduced that bill. We've got about 22 co-sponsors of senators, and I'm going to keep building it so that we reach a majority, so that we will able to put the constraints not only on this president, but any president. No single human being alone should have the ability to decide to start a nuclear war. It is absolutely unconscionable that this president or any president would think that he would have the discretion to be able to do that.
Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else have a question?
Joe Boyle does.
Okay, Joe Boyle. Joe?
The abuses of undocumented immigrants, asylum seekers, and refugees by this administration. Thinking about the things that the actions that have been taken by ICE, that have been taken by Customs and Border Patrol under this administration, do you think that the solution is as simple as just electing another president who will implement different policies during his administration? Or do you think that we need to make greater reforms in federal and immigration law, or even in reorganizing the Department of Homeland Security, reorganizing the immigration enforcement agencies? Do you believe in abolishing ICE? What do you think about what's going to have to happen to fix this problem?
Yeah, we have to dismantle this deportation army, which Trump has put together. We have to make sure that we protect all the DACA kids. What kind of sense does it make that we take a kid who started here at age 2 or 3 or 4, we educate them their whole life, we send them through college, they're in the military, and now we're saying you're leaving? They don't know any other home but us. So they have to have a pathway to citizenship. Same thing true for TPS, whether you're from El Salvador, Honduras, from Haiti. We should just create a path for citizenship for all of those temporary protected status individuals inside of our country. We just have to make sure that we do that. And for all 11 million other immigrants, a pathway to citizenship for each and every one of them. We just have to change the ground rules for how we're looking at this issue. And by the way, so many of them are, quote unquote, essential workers. So many of them live in Lowell, live in Lawrence, who are now deemed essential workers. And I think at the end of this process that we should say to ourselves, you know what they deserve? They deserve a pathway to citizenship. Rather than living in terror in 3-deckers that the next knock on the door might come from ICE, even though they've committed no crime, even though they've done nothing wrong, we should be saying to them, thank you for what you just did. Thank you for helping us. Thank you for doing all of those essential chores that were necessary to protect all of our families. And now we will create a pathway to citizenship for you. That is what the agenda for 2021 must be in our country.
Okay, thank you. I think we have a Susie. You said you can't raise your hand, but you sent us a message. So we'll take that as if you raised your hand, Susie, if you want to ask a question.
This is Pat.
Oh, Pat?
Yes. Thank you so much for coming,
Okay.
Senator Markey. It's a real delight to have the opportunity to hear you speak and to ask you questions. Thanks for your valuable time. I wanted to ask a question. A situation I'm very anxious about is how are we going to vote, the manner in which we will vote during the presidential election this year? I mean, there have been talks about doing it online or mail-in ballots. I've heard news that the current president, who I refer to as number 45, because he's the 45th president, I don't want to say his name, he said he will deny federal funds to those states that have a write-in ballot. But I just wonder what you think is going to happen in terms of enabling everybody who wants to vote to vote.
Well, Amy Klobuchar and Ron Wyden and I and a group of other senators now 2.5 months ago, introduced legislation first to fund mail-in ballots across the country because we want people to have an option, so that we don't wind up like Wisconsin, where you see 70 or 80 or 90 people who contracted coronavirus because they had to stand in line. So we want to give people the option. If they want to vote in person, they should do so, but if we have to make it easy for people to vote by mail. So, and what we said was, Amy Klobuchar and I and others 2.5 months ago, we'll provide the federal funding. And we keep trying to put it into each one of these coronavirus packages because we say it's a natural consequence of the coronavirus that people are going to have a hard time voting in person. So let's just fund this and send the money back to the states. But and I know that Donald Trump thinks that that's going to subvert democracy because the people who agree with us are going to be more likely to vote. And they don't want that. So again, it's going to be another huge slugfest on the Senate floor over that issue over the next month to make sure that we provide the funding to help the states to be able to have everyone be able to vote.
Okay, thank you. Susie, now it's definitely your turn, if you can hear me.
Yes, thank you, Chris. Thank you, everyone in this meeting. Senator Ed Markey, my name is Susie Chun. I am the Vice President of CNRPA Women's Affairs. It's an organization which is advocating for democracy and human rights in Cambodia. And I also advocate for our people, our community here in Lowell as well. I've been reaching out to the Cambodian community in Lowell to support you during the election. And I am also on board with helping your election campaign as well. My question to you is, I know that you're on board with the Foreign Committee, and you also co-sponsor Bill HR 526. Right now, my team and I have been working along with the other senators in the United States to support and sponsor this bill. And right now, we're also urging our senators to help co-sponsor Bill S-3081, that's coincide with Cambodia Democracy Act. And these two bills would definitely help the Cambodian people in Cambodia to get themselves away from the dictatorship and from Hun Sen. He's the dictator in Cambodia right now, the prime minister. And how, in terms of this, what else can we do as a Cambodian American who to help ask other senators to co-sponsor Bill HR 526 and S-3081? Thank you.
No, thank you, and thank you for your advocacy. You know, a lot of times America doesn't want to own its own history. We have a history in Cambodia, going back to the Vietnam War, going back to the Nixon incursions into Cambodia. You know, a lot of the legacy of American actions is still playing out in Cambodia. And so we have a responsibility to stand up for human rights, to stand up against repression, to stand up so that people, you know, are able to maximize their God-given abilities no matter where they live, especially in countries where the United States played a role. So from my perspective, I will continue to work with you to advocate, you know, for you and try to get you more co-sponsors, you know, so that we can stand up and speak to those issues of human rights and our own history, Okay, same thing is true in Latin America, Nicaragua, Salvador, Guatemala, Honduras. We got to own our own past. Okay, a lot of the conditions down there are because of what we did as a nation. But in Cambodia, I'm very, very sensitive to what you're talking about, Susie, and I will try and have my staff contact you so that we can partner with you. Thank you.
All right, and I think there was one more question from Lisa. Lisa, if you're there.
Unmute. Okay. Yes. Thank you again, Senator Markey, for speaking. This is great. I am running for state representative. My question to you, when you were talking about the Alzheimer's budget, the cost to work on Alzheimer's, you said that it was half of the defense budget and working toward being equal to that. My question is, what are your thoughts? What are you doing to reduce the defense budget? Because I personally think it's a lot higher than it needs to be.
Absolutely. Well, I introduced the SANE Act, which is a bill to dramatically reduce our nuclear weapons development program, nuclear missiles development program in our country. We need another, you know, we need another nuclear weapon, like we need another Zoom call. You know what I'm saying? I mean, it's like we already got enough. Okay, we already have enough on our schedule. Enough. Let's try to make sure that we cut that budget. So I'm fighting him, for example, in terms of a new weapon that he wants to deploy. He's already deploying it, which actually is a miniaturized nuclear weapon, a baby nuke, which he believes is usable in nuclear war because all the casualties are so much fewer. If you can only imagine, it's like an oxymoron, like a usable nuclear weapon. It's just crazy. So from my perspective, we just have to look throughout this budget, but especially over in this nuclear arsenal where he's pulling out of every single treaty with Russia. We're triggering a nuclear arms race China is going to be joining in as well. And we're going to wind up spending a fortune that should be spent on poor kids, on healthcare, on job training, and to get out of this economic crisis that we're in. You can't think of the defense budget as a jobs bill. That's a defense budget. Just spend as much as you need for our defense, and we don't need more nuclear weapons. Then spend the rest on a real economic plan to help real families in our country. So I've been leading on that effort to deal with this incredibly increasing nuclear arms race that is breaking out. And the president seems to be committed to doing it. And that's why I'm committed to fighting him, to reduce it and eliminate, and to then replace him as the president of the United States, so we can have a sane nuclear policy on this planet. Negotiations and not escalation of the threat.
All right, thank you. Joe, you want to call up the next one?
Yeah, the next question, Councilor Cirillo. Unmute.
Hi, Senator Markey, former Lowell City Councilor Karen Cirillo. It's good to see you again.
Thank you, Karen.
Thank you so much for being here. And I am also helping out with your campaign, and I was chosen as one of your delegates.
Thank you.
Oh, it's my pleasure. My question to you is, what do you feel makes you really shine and stand out in this battle?
In this what?
In this battle for the seat. What makes you really stand out and shine? What do you feel makes you really stand out and shine? Thank you.
Well, I've led and delivered for our state and the country throughout my career. It's my law on fuel economy standards that ultimately was used to double the fuel economy standards. That's where Elon Musk comes from. It's my law. Let's double the fuel economy standards. It's my law which led to a doubling of the efficiency of air conditioning, toasters, stoves, refrigerators, just to cut down the number of coal burning plants that ever have to be built. It's my law which is the Constitution for a child's online privacy bill of rights. It's 12 and under right now. That's my law from 1998, but I'm going to get it up to age 16 so that every parent has a right to the knowledge and information that's being gathered about their kid, the right to the notice that it's being reused for other purposes, and the right to say no as a matter of law. That's a law that I've already been able to get passed for age 12 and more. I've already been able to get past the Alzheimer's bill, that will ultimately be a $20 to $30 billion research program to find the cure for Alzheimer's. 15 million people suffer from it right now. It's my law that has $25 million for the CDC to study gun control. I could go on. I have more than 500 laws on the books. And every time I had to go find a Republican who would agree with me on the opioid crisis, it's so that we can increase the amount of Suboxone that can be dispensed not just by doctors, but by nurse practitioners and others, so we can deal with that crisis. I added a new program. I did it with another Republican because I saw the HIV and hepatitis C overlap with opioid crisis. And so that's a new program at NIH that I was able to get put on the books because I saw it was happening in Lawrence. And so I found a guy a Republican senator from Indiana who had the same problem in Gary, Indiana, so that we could make that a law and move forward on that. I could keep going down the list, but I've led and delivered. I've tried to look ahead, lead the way, and to be someone who fought. And what I've done in each and every instance is I've channeled that first floor of the triple-decker in Lawrence and this dining room in Malden, where I still live. And it's because it's who I am. Yeah, I file bills. I cast votes. But it's all animated by you, by these families on these streets, because I am you. It's who I am. I'm just a blue-collar kid who's very fortunate. I know I'm fortunate. I know that when your father is a milkman and your mother had to give up her college dreams because her mother died and she had to stay home. I know how fortunate I am. And so I channel that. I take it very personally, all these fights. And so, I'll have your back. on the Senate floor. If you have my back now in this election, I'll have your back, and I will fight for you every day the way I always have.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Joyce? Joyce Hackett? Oh, Joyce, you're on mute.
Hello. You hear me?
I hear you loud and clear.
Great. Senator Markey, I'm Democratic Town Chair of New Marlboro, and I'm the founder of Lift Every Vote, which teaches people how to do effective voting work. This is another question about vote by mail, which Pat signaled, and is something that's on all of our minds now. You know, just based on other states and what's happened this spring, we're going to go from something like a range of 3 to 6% requests for mail-in ballots to something in the range of 60 to 70%. It's a huge and catastrophic shift in the way people are going to vote. And we understand why Trump is vehemently opposed to supporting vote by mail, to claiming bullshit voter fraud, to all of it. But that's what I want to know. How are we going to support the post office? Is that something that we can do? And in terms of the funding for vote by mail, is it that I was on a call with somebody from Ron Wyden's office who said that the Senate is lost. You cannot pressure senators. You can only ask your House reps to hold hostage a bill until they get this funding in it. So what is our role here in Massachusetts? I mean, I work on Massachusetts specific and the bills that we're trying to pass in Massachusetts. But what is our role on the national stage? Who do we need to, who is possible to convert, and how do we need to convert them?
Well, I think that we're going to see in red states, because of their poor leadership at the gubernatorial level, continued spikes in the coronavirus. And I think what you're going to see at the grassroots in those states is you're going to see an uprising saying that the problem hasn't gone away. It's worsening. I don't want to have to vote in person if I can avoid it. We need to dramatically liberalize the rules for voting by mail. And so you have to work, obviously, with other, you don't have to convince Elizabeth Warren and me to do this. Okay? We start out here believing that participatory democracy is the highest virtue and gift that we've been given in this country, so that we can make our own democratic choices for who we are and what we want to see happen. So from my perspective, it's going to be a mighty battle to a certain, and I do believe that their lack of concern about the post office just goes to their objective of just wiping it out, privatizing it. But we know, because we see the mail person every day now, through rain, sleet, snow, gloom of night, or coronavirus, they're showing up every day. No, they're heroes, but their revenues have been cut in half. So our proposal as Democrats is to provide $25 billion to the post office. $25 billion. And we've got it.
Strategically, what the people on this, what you think is the most effective action for people on this call to take to help that?
Well, you're part of a national network of progressives across the country. They exist in red states as well as blue states, maybe in smaller numbers, but especially in the cities in the red states. They're going to need a lot of help. They're going to need a lot of help. And we need to make it just as painful for the leaders in those states as all these people who are holding signs basically saying, you know, I don't want to wear a mask. I don't want to self-discipline. Open it all up. I don't care what the public health consequences are. Well, you've got your counterparts in all of these cities. I mean, Indianapolis is a liberal city inside a conservative state. Salt Lake City is a liberal city inside of a conservative state. The same thing is true all across the South, from Dallas to Fort Worth and Austin. And so somehow or other, we're going to have to create a national network here. that just builds this movement for democracy and for public health simultaneously. Because you've got us. You started with us from the word go, but we basically, and that's what Zoom makes possible, we can organize this thing. We don't have to agonize, we can organize. We have to do it in a new way, and if we do so, we're going to put tremendous pressure on these politicians to try to defend not funding a mail-in system in our country, and to allow the post office to collapse. So I think the working materials are there, and if we do it, we have a chance to win, but it's going to require all of us to do it. I'm doing it member to member, but you can do it kind of friend to friend, group to group, all across the country, but we need some kind of national network to make this case. So thank you for your question. And it just goes right to the heart of what 2020 is going to be all about. They're going to try to suppress the vote, and that's pretty much what they're all about. If nobody voted, they'd be just so thrilled. They'd just be very grateful. And we know they don't want minorities to vote. We know they don't want poor people to vote. We know what the whole strategy is all about. So thank you for that great question. So Chris and Joe, thank you so much for inviting me into your great group here tonight. And I guess all I can really say to you is I've tried to earn your support, by my work in the Senate over the last 6 years. And I will try to honor you and what you would do for me in this election every day that I have the privilege of serving you for 6 more years on the floor of the United States Senate. And I just wanted to sincerely thank you for coming together tonight and for anything that you might do to assist my candidacy. And Aaron is up there, and if you want to contact and help, we'd love to have you. But thank you, Chris. Thank you, Joe. Thank you to everybody who's on this call tonight. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Senator, for taking the time to come here and to talk to us and answer our many, many questions. I know Aaron put his contact in the chat here, so if anybody else has questions, in the interest of being mindful of time, maybe they can send questions there and we can go from there.
Beautiful. Thank you. Much appreciated. Whatever, we're interactive campaign that we're running. We are.
Right. Well, we want to be mindful of your time as well as everybody else's.
Thank you.
So if there's no further questions, we thank you very much for coming here.
Thank you. My honor to be with you. Thank you. Thanks for all you're doing.
And we'll proceed with the next step of our meeting. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, now of course I lost everything again. Oh, here we are. I got to share again. Share my screen. Now, of course, we ran over quite a bit, but it was really good, so I didn't want to stop it any sooner than this. And we are supposed to have 3 more people, and we have, what, 6 more minutes. That's cutting it close. So before we go ahead, I want to see how people feel about staying a little bit longer, or would some of the people who came here to speak rather do it the next time. I mean, I'm up to either.
I just have about 10 more minutes, so I can't stay longer.
Okay.
All right, Joyce, we'll put you on the top of the next agenda.
Yes.
Definitely want to hear you.
Right. So Joyce, why don't you go now?
Okay. I'm interested to hear exactly what you're interested in, but I made a little outline, basically trying to answer the question of how can we ensure that a fair vote takes place. That's basically what we're all concerned about. And it really has to be the top priority. We have focused so much on candidates, but focusing on candidates in a national election is sort of like focusing on the voice of Oz rather than the machine behind the curtain that really runs it. And so, the Democrats are very focused on the presidency, and they're very focused on candidate messaging. And, the Republicans focus much more on the grunt work. And actually, they are ahead of us in voter registration right now from 2018 to now. So that's That's a real challenge that we've got. And of course, registration is going to change completely. So I'm just going to list a couple of resources for you. I have about 10 different things I want to talk about very quickly, and then I'll just take questions and talk about whatever you guys, really are interested in. The first thing is just, you have some other people talking about getting out the vote, but I just want to talk about two things. The first thing is to really examine the concept of turnout. We use turnout to imply motivation or apathy, whether someone voted or not. But the fact is that we don't even know whether the uncounted people tried to vote, stood in line for 2 hours and gave up, voted but had a shitty machine. We don't know anything about these numbers. So it's really important to understand that the people who haven't been counted may have tried or may have wanted to, but didn't have the resources or met too many obstacles. And it's important in our thinking as liberals to understand that we need to really look at what the obstacles are. Among young people, the biggest obstacle is that they don't feel informed enough to vote. Young people could determine this election and they could change the country entirely if they voted. But the fact is their giant surge in 2018 brought them to 31% participation. And meanwhile, older people are voting at 68 to 74%. So we've got a big job in terms of motivating youth. What works in terms of persuasion to getting people to vote? We made a list of really 5 things that are really crucial factors in converting potential voters into voters. The first is FOMO, which is, you think something's going on the internet and you're missing it. If you say, I talked to Jane, Dave, and Betty about voting and they're going to vote, are you going to vote? That creates an environment in which you force the person to exclude themselves from a group that they don't want to exclude themselves from. That's important. So I talked to your neighbor, they're going to vote. Are you going to vote? The second is to call them a voter. Most of you probably know that, but it's important to kind of cement their identity as a voter by calling them, you are a voter. You coach them towards commitment. You say, if you don't mind my asking, what's your plan for voting? When are you going to vote and how? You probably, most people know this, but I just want to say it. The most effective of all these tools, and what I'm saying is completely backed up by a whole bunch of research, hint at accountability. So promise to follow up. Say, I'm going to text you on election day to see how it went, right? That raises the rate of people voting enormously. Just they think somebody's going to say, hey, did you vote? And follow up. Even if you don't follow up, it raises the rate. And then finally, people who have not voted at all and are turned off by partisan politics, you want to really address them on issues. You want to ask them what they want from their government. And then once they start talking about it, you can come back and say, well, this Medicaid bill is in Congress and is in the state legislature of Massachusetts, and we really hope to pass it because that would really address your concern. You start with their concerns, not with what you are trying to sell them and what you want from them. And you enable them to see how their concerns can be answered by your candidate. Now that's for people who are non-voters. Bottom line, in this election, I think you guys are probably more concerned about national than Massachusetts, but we've got a heavy lift everywhere. We've just got such a heavy lift. Massachusetts, Indivisible Massachusetts has an action to urge your reps to pass 2 bills that would ensure that every voter was mailed a ballot. So they wouldn't have to mail in that application and then they would get the ballot. It's confusing even for high propensity voters. And these are 2 bills that the Election Modernization Coalition, which is a coalition of 100 groups in Massachusetts, which worked with me on AVR, is also supporting. Those bills are HD 5075 and 4737. You may already know about them. But if you don't, and you know, with Elisa, I'm so glad you're running because Nangle is, okay. Anyway,
yes.
Yes. Here's what you can do in the meantime to pressure David Nangle, okay? Who I know about Nangle. He's one of the worst, okay? But here's what you can do to pressure him. If you haven't already done this, go on OCPF and look up his donors. And look up the people who are, get the names of all of the people who are not real estate developers. Get everybody else, okay? Look up his big donors and stalk them on Facebook and friend them and start chatting them up, okay? Look up who he has his picture taken with. I don't know what his social media profile is. I imagine it's quite low, but if he has, you know, the standard elected pictures with those people, friend those people and start talking to them first about non-political things, then about political things. Okay, you don't want to tip your hand too early, but really seriously, you need to have an octopus with like 40 tentacles on the guy in order to get him to do anything. And hopefully, you know, in 2020, you'll have a different situation. But until then, you need to press him to pass this bill. And what he just needs to understand is that there are so many people interested in voting that he can't not do it. So that's the first thing I would do. I would visit Nangle. I would stalk Nangle on social media. I would research his donors and get through to his donors and pitch his donors. I would convert every single person in his office, chat up every single person in his office, including the interns, the chief of staff, all of them. Convert all of them, make all of them tired of hearing from you, right? So, okay, so that's my little tiny piece on Nangle and how his part in passing vote by mail in Massachusetts. The third thing is that Galvin, Indivisible Mass and Progressive Mass need to organize a campaign to get Galvin to join ERIC, which is the Electronic Registration Information Center, I think. ERIC is a project of the Pew Charitable Trust that compares voter rolls from states, and most states belong to it now, like 29 states. And in our automatic voter registration bill, part of that was that we join ERIC, and it updates the voter rolls to make them more accurate. Of course, that's the big problem with vote by mail, is if you don't have accurate voter rolls, mailing a ballot to everybody means that the people who move more, i.e. traditionally disenfranchised people, young people, poor people, people with 3 jobs, young families who move a lot, those people don't get their ballots. So that's really trouble. Mass does have an advantage in that we are the only state in the nation that conducts the town-by-town voter census every year. But nevertheless, ERIC is an immensely successful, nonpartisan voter roll comparer. And we legally are supposed to be joining it. And we haven't. And that's really critical. It came up in the hearing. It came up in the Massachusetts State Senate hearing last week, and I was listening to it online, and I was kind of shocked that we haven't done this. So those couple of things are really the keys. And then I can tell you about some resources just for, locally for you. I hope you all know about Map the Vote, which is an app that in the wrong hands would be disastrous, but in your hands could be wonderful. What it does is you can put in your address exactly where you are, and it tells you every household that has an adult living in it, but no registered voter. Right now, you don't want this to get in the hands of, immigration, but it is a way to find unregistered voters in a very targeted way. And it's a fantastic app to use to find those unregistered voters. You don't have to knock on every door anymore and say, oh, are you registered? You now know where there are households where there are no registered voters. So that's a really good way to center in on that. And, you know, I have a whole bunch of other apps, but I think I'll stop talking and just see, you know, if any of that is of interest, if you want to know more about postcarding or what states to support or what voting orgs to support within those states. You know, so let me just take questions.
Okay, thank you, Joyce. Again, doing a time check here. I know several people had to leave already, but definitely if there are any questions, please raise your hands, whoever, and we'll go from there. Paul.
Joyce, thank you for a great presentation. Can you just repeat that app where you talked about an adult living who's not registered?
Yeah, Map the Vote. There are two real apps, Map the Vote and Vote With Me. Vote With Me snoops into your friends based on the public record voter files and tells you, did they vote, what the registration is, blah, 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 right? So you can see, hey, you voted in 16, but you didn't vote in 18 or whatever. And, you know, it's a little snoopy, but it gets you to understand that, you know, there are lots of people who are very committed Democrats who don't vote. There are lots of people who just, you know, don't. And so that's really important. You know, there are some more complex resources which I could give you if you want to do out-of-state work. But I think those two are really excellent resources.
Can you put those in the chat? So whatever the link is to get them.
I don't have the links, but it's very easy to.
I asked the question is I've been trying to organize my church and I got nowhere with the clergy because I wanted to encourage registration among the parishioners. We had a remote site. We got maybe 2 people to register.
Yeah, well, it's Map the Vote, especially, you know, when you have somebody like Lisa running for office, where you're concentrating in a very specific district, is a very, very useful application. It was designed by Jeremy Smith, who did Civitech, Register to Vote with the 2, and then he developed Map the Vote, which is quite impressive. Yeah. Okay. Any other questions?
Other questions?
Okay, so I'm just going to finish by saying, you know, we have a Facebook group, Lift Every Vote, and that's a place where you can get information about, you know, national. Basically, our focus is simple actions that you can take to help the voting landscape nationally from Massachusetts. So, you know, we do post Massachusetts actions, but mostly it's how to work interstate to support, to fight voter suppression. So I'm on Facebook. Lift Every Vote is on Facebook. You can post yourself and ask a question, and I'm here as a resource, and I am happy to help anybody who is interested in voting.
Okay, thank you very much, Joyce. That was very informative. And I'm sure there will be more questions coming to your Facebook page and to any other contact information we have for you. And I hope at some later point we'll talk again. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank you.
Right, now, if I can find my screen again, that will also be helpful. There it is. Okay, so we had theoretically 2 more speakers, but in our sessions we had more.
You're breaking up.
It's getting too late, and so we pretty much agreed that we're not going to do the other 2 speakers. Aurora said she would be okay with doing it next time, and Maura may or may not be able to do it next time, but many of us know about voter choice. We'll have to talk about it. It's 7:10 and people have been leaving, so I feel we should probably come to an end unless somebody feels otherwise. Not hearing any objections. Okay, Then we'll come to the end of this one, thanking everybody for getting here today on this, what is supposed to be the Memorial Day weekend. We were all supposed to be out barbecuing, but I guess this was the next best thing to do. Our next meeting will be on June 28th. We have a couple of topics in mind, but nothing has been confirmed yet. We will obviously be publishing that soon as we know about it. We will once again need help with making reminder, not cause actually reminder text. Wynn, who had to leave early, already told me that she will again do it. Everybody in the coordinating committee usually does it. If there are any other people who would like to help out, it's very easy. I'll send you the text and the link to the spreadsheet. All you have to do is copy over the text about 10 times and send it out to the 10 people that are assigned to you. And that's all you have to do about it. So if anybody would like to either say now that they would like to help out with that or let us know later, we would appreciate it. Marissa. I'm sorry, Marissa?
Yep.
Okay, great. And that's about it. All right. Then I think we are just about, oh, I'm losing my screen again. And of course, for those of you that are not that familiar with us, yes, we have a website, solidaritylowell.com, where you can sign up for our mailings. You can join us on our Facebook page, where you see events, photos, and more, but not the discussions and members only events. You can join our Facebook group, where you get full participation in all discussions. We are on Instagram, we are on Twitter, we're just about everywhere. So please join us. If anybody forgets these things, you can also email what's the general email? Contact at solidaritylowell.com. He doesn't want to get all of this, send an email to contact@solidaritylowell.com and we'll answer whatever your question might be. And again, thank you everybody for attending tonight. Have a nice rest of the weekend and we'll see you in a month, I hope.